Hello there, Bernie Miklasz back with you. Welcome to the Bernie Show here on SportsHubSTL.com, my wonderful new home. The Bernie Show is presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. As you can tell, I'm pretty fired up because it's hockey night in St. Louis. It actually ain't going to be in St. Louis, but St. Louis is at Winnipeg for Game 5 in a best-of-7 first-round series that's tied 2-2. It is hockey night in St. Louis. I can't wait for this one, and I know you feel the same way. I want to really get into the Connor Hellebuyck story and his terrible play in Winnipeg's goal during the postseason. It's nothing new. There is a history here. I keep talking about it. I wrote a column about it the other day here on SportsHubSTL.com. You can find it if you're interested. But I have some new information to add to that, and also some insight to add to that. And I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. I get excited about this stuff. But the Blues exploited Hellebuyck, who's about 6'6". He's like a power forward in basketball. They exploited the big fella by bombing him for 11 goals and only 43 shots in the 2 blowouts in St. Louis. Hellebuyck was so awful, he got benched in back-to-back games. And that hasn't happened to him. The last time it happened to him was in the regular season back in April of 2022. That's 3 years ago. So that was a pretty big deal for the Blues to run Hellebuyck off the ice 2 games in a row in St. Louis. So the Blues have their work cut out because, we would expect that Winnipeg's going to be crazed tonight. And if Hellebuyck can restore his confidence and maybe make a few changes, technical changes, he'll be a tougher opponent, but I'm not convinced he'll do that. But the Blues are going to have to play well. I thought the Blues really had a chance to win both of those games. Well, of course they did in Winnipeg. They should have won game 1. But they let the Jets kind of, slowly stabilize, and the Jets took over later. So the Blues have to they got to throw the first punches here, and they got to just keep going. They can't let up the way they did. They had letdowns or whatever you want to call it in the first 2 games. It cost them a chance to win at least one game up there. So here's hoping the Blues can get the win on enemy ice tonight and bring a 3-2 series lead back to 14th and Clark for Game 6 on Friday evening. Just a couple of really brief notes before we dig into Hellebuyck. The Jets should be boosted by the return of center Gabriel Velarde, who's been out with an injury. And this could be a big deal for them, especially since the Blues are missing Dylan Holloway. They're outstanding young center. In the regular season, Velarde was 3rd among the Jets in goals with 27, and only Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele had more. The Blues, of course, going to go into this one without their bear-sized defenseman, Tyler Tucker. He's a big man with skill who gave the Blues some extra juice in games 3 and 4 at Enterprise Center. So Ryan Suter, a 16-year NHL veteran, and I believe he's played about 130, maybe 135 career postseason games. Hey, that's not a bad guy to turn back to, right? I'm going to take a break in a minute here, but I want to dive into the Hellebuyck situation when we come back. The quote, world class, you hear that a lot. Oh, he's a world-class goaltender. He is in the regular season, as I've pointed out. But he's been reeling in the postseason, not just this postseason. It goes back a while. And I've got some shocking stats to share with you to back up what we're saying here. Jets fans are awfully anxious about what to expect from him in Game 5 and then for the rest of the series. The Blues, like I said, man, they just got to get after him in Game 5, just the way they did in Games 3 and 4. They can't let him get comfortable. In fact, they have to make Hellebuyck feel they have to continue making him feel real, very uncomfortable and put even more doubt in his tormented mind. Let's get into this with some information and some insight from a retired NHL goaltender when we return. First, I want to take a little time to tell you about our friends at DraftKings. I love DraftKings. If you think you know Major League Baseball, the NHL, the NBA, other sports, it's time to put your knowledge to work. Go for some big cash prizes at DraftKings Pick 6. When it comes to huge payouts, DraftKings is game-winning gold compared to the competition. The mission here is to focus on player stats and decide whether you pick a stat and the player, and either the player will go higher than the key statistic or will be lower than the key statistic. For example, real quick example, game 5 tonight in Winnipeg. DraftKings list Robert Thomas, listed him with at 0.5 assists. So it means if you think he'll get an assist and he gets an assist and you play it that way, well, you're a winner. If you say, well, they played him really tight in the first 2 games up there, so maybe they'll keep him off the board tonight. Well, if he doesn't get an assist and you went with that play, well, you win that way instead. So it's really that simple in terms of just the really basic premise of playing it one way or the other. And you do a little homework if you want. I do, and I think it helps. But everyone's got their own system, right? Pick Six available in most states, including Missouri, Georgia, Texas, Georgia, and more. It's a lot of fun to play. You make those picks, and what's really kind of fun even more is you have a ball, just kind of tracking your chosen players to see if you're going to have that chance to pull in the cash money. It's as simple as that. I signed up and was really happy with just how easy it is to get started. You download the DraftKings app and you open an account, then you choose a sport, pick your player or players, and you go for it. You pick the over or the under on a stat, and you go for it. Turn your knowledge of baseball, NHL, NBA, golf, other sports into payouts. Like I kept mentioning, I always going to report it because these sports, go for it. New players at DraftKings get $50 in Pick Six credits instantly with just a $5 entry. Download the DraftKings Pick Six app now and use the code STL Sports. That's important. It's the code STL Sports for new customers to play $5 and get $50 in Pick Six credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick Six from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick Six not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick Six credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at picksix.draftkings.com/promos.
Let's dig into Connor Hellebuyck's situation. To me, it is going to be the biggest thing in Game 5. Is the Blues' ability to put more pucks in the net and more cracks in his confidence. The Blues had Hellebuyck in trouble in Game 1, and they let him stabilize and recover, and they lost the game. That can't happen again. Hellebuyck is vulnerable, that's for sure. This isn't some St. Louis homer opinion. You know me. I do research. I focus in on numbers. Some of you, I think, probably think I do too much of that, but I don't. I don't like to just run off at the mouth and throw these opinions around that aren't supported by facts. So I have a thing about if it's something that I see or something that I think, I want to get some confirmation for that rather than just guessing and being a blowhard, right? So you take me as I am, and I do my research. He may be the best regular season goaltender in the NHL. He's a finalist again for the Vezina Trophy, but his track record is abysmal. And I've already talked about this. In fact, I wrote a column about it the other day. I think I just mentioned this at sportshubstl.com. You can still watch it. So anyway, you can still go read it. All right. First of all, Hellebuyck's 4-10 with a lousy save percentage in his last 3 postseasons, including this one. If we go back a bit, he's been the losing goaltender in 14 of his last 18 postseason games. And it's not because he played well and his teammates were bad. It's probably the opposite is true. So he's been the losing goaltender in 14 of his last 18 postseason games. And in the 14 losses, just the 14 losses, he allowed 4.35 goals per game, 435 goals against per game. Had an .870 save percentage, yikes, and was a minus 16 goals saved above average. That's the metric, which means he cost his team a lot of goals because of his own poor play. That's the translation on that. All right, here's the one that I came up with this morning that pleases me because I like it when the research really backs something up, that something that I have come to believe. I love it when the research says, yes, you are correct, big guy. It doesn't mean that the research will always, play out. These are human beings. And Hellebuyck could win a game tonight if the Blues stink or Jordan Binnington has a bad night. So nothing is certain, but I'm just saying there is a pretty extensive track record here. All right, here's what it is. Since the start of the 2022 postseason, there have been 28 NHL goaltenders that have started at least 10 games. 28 goaltenders that have started at least 10 games in the postseason since 2022. So of the 28 goaltenders, and so listen to this, please. Of the 28 goaltenders since 2022, Hellebuyck ranks 26th in save percentage at .890. Ooh, not good. 26th out of 28th in save percentage. Well, he's 27th out of the 28 in quality start percentage. And he is dead last at 28th in goals against average. So he's the bottom three in those categories, okay? Now, contrast that to our guy, Jordan Binnington, in his 14 postseason starts since the 2022 playoffs. Binnington's tied for the third best save percentage among the 28 goaltenders. .922 save percentage. Third best among the 28 goaltenders. He's tied for fifth among the 28 in quality start percentage, and he is 10th of the 28 with a goals against average of 2.45. So Hellebuyck has been in the bottom three on that list of 28, the bottom three in all those categories. Binnington at worst has been 10th, and he's much better than the other couple I mentioned. He's third and he's fifth. So this is a night and day look, right? To recap the matchup, plus I wrote about this the other day, and I'm not going to read the stats. Again, you can find them in that column. But Binnington and Hellebuyck have gone head-to-head 11 times. 10 times with the Blues playing the Jets in the postseason. They did that in 2019, and that was 6 games and then 4 games so far this time. And also they had the Four Nations final where Binnington outplayed Hellebuyck in this one, on that one as well. So Binnington has won 7 of the 11 games, and when they go head to head, he's won 7 out of 11, and his save percentage is much, much better than Hellebuyck's, and his goals against average is much, much lower than Hellebuyck's. So this isn't, again, man, I'm just saying this isn't me being a big fanboy. There is a clear and very, very precise history showing Hellebuyck's problems in the postseason, but also how when he goes head to head against Binnington is the one who plays better and wins more than Hellebuyck. Not every time, but you're playing the percentages here, and it's been many, many times. So unless something changes dramatically, the Blues have a big edge in goal. And it's not tonight. It's, if this thing's going to go the distance, I think that edge in goal is going to carry the Blues 3, unless Binnington, all of a sudden Hellebuyck becomes a totally different goaltender, or Binnington just runs into a brief slump. But he hasn't really done that. There were a couple postseasons, but it was all around the COVID time. And then the following year, it wasn't a good time for the Blues, period. But man, 2019, and then you look at, the way he played in 2022, and even some other times, since 2022, I gave you the stats. His postseason numbers have been really strong. So I'm going to talk about some specific factors in play here, and I am also going to refer to a retired NHL goaltender who did a great job of kind of scouting out what Hellebuyck's weaknesses are. But I have to take care of some business first, and I appreciate if you stay with me on that. I'd like to welcome a new sponsor to the show, our friends at BlueChew. And men, especially around my age, please listen up when I tell you this with 100% sincerity. I really want to tell you about BlueChew. I'm happy to talk to you about BlueChew. I feel no awkwardness in speaking to you about BlueChew because just like me, my fellow men should live a full and active life, and that includes a full and active romantic life, without surrendering to a problem and saying, what's the use? No, don't have that attitude. BlueChew is there to help you. I've been there, done that. BlueChew is the original brand offering you chewable tablets for enhanced intimacy in your relations. BlueChew is the ultimate leadoff hitter in your lineup when it's time to turn your attention away from sports and focus on your significant other. Guys, make sure you're ready to go when it's time. And you will get the first month of BlueChew free. A home run kind of night is just right there for you, a few clicks away, and it's really, really easy to get started. You sign up at BlueChew.com. You consult with one of their licensed medical providers. And once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. BlueChew tablets are made and prepared in the USA and shipped directly to your door. It's all done online. There's no visits to the doctor's office, no uncomfortable conversations, no waiting in line at the pharmacy. You just order online. Simple as that. And you can increase your horsepower with the help of BlueChew. Trust Uncle Bernie here when I tell you this, and I've been around a long time. There's nothing more attractive to your partner than confidence, and BlueChew can help give you the confidence you need when it counts. Make life easier by, increasing your fulfillment, your pleasure, and you do that by discovering your options at BlueChew.com. I've got a special deal for our listeners because I care about you guys. Try your first month of BlueChew free when you use promo code Bernie. Just pay $5 shipping. That's promo code Bernie. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank BlueChew for sponsoring the Bernie Show. All right, let's get back into Connor Hellebuyck. What do the Blues have to do to break him down again? Well, he's a tall stand-up goaltender, as you know, and he works deep in the net. He places his hands up and away from his torso rather than keeping them back the way Binnington and a lot of goaltenders do. Because when you keep your hands back, as Mike McKenna, the native St. Louis and who's retired from the NHL, as he was explaining on a talk show, you keep your hands back, it's just easier to react to things. If your hands are way out here, and I know that you're not going to get the visual, but if your hands are away from your body, where do you go with them? Especially if you have to go low, you have to reach something down. Or if there's a deflection and you've got to move your hands to a different place, you got a split second to do it. If your hands are stuck in front of you up high, what about if there is a shot from the side? What about if there's shots from angles? Well, your hands are out here. They're out here. So it's just harder to get your hands to be where they need to be to make the save. And that applies to a lot of things, right? So when you have a tall goaltender like this, a classic stand-up goaltender who likes to work deep in the net and puts his hands up and away in a high level from his torso, he's not in position to have those quick reactions. So I watched the interview with St. Louis and Mike McKenna, retired NHL goaltender. Man, he is a smart guy. I love to listen to his hockey analysis. He's just superb. And McKenna says that Hellebuyck is a stationary goaltender. He is a cerebral goaltender. He loves to read the play. He's very analytical minded. I'm talking about Hellebuyck. He reads the play. He knows kind of where it's going, and he's ready to pounce on pucks or whatever. So he tends to stay square, as McKenna points out, and in position to utilize his big frame by staying square. But by keeping his hands up here and outward, McKenna says Hellebuyck lacks explosiveness and isn't as active in the net. He's not as springy with his hand movement to get to some pucks. And Jordan Binnington and a lot of other goaltenders are explosive. They are more active, and they have that springy nature in their movement with their limbs, right? Mike McKenna said Hellebuck's problems aren't mental. He believes it's just technical form, the hand placement, because playoff hockey's a hell of a lot different than regular season hockey. Skating is faster. Skating is harder. The action in front of the net is more intense and chaotic. And lightning quick reaction time is very, very helpful to a goaltender. McKenna made it sure that he has great respect for Connor Hellebuyck. but he was asked to give an honest assessment of what he sees in terms of the Blues being able to get to him. And it's pretty obvious that Hellebuyck in the postseason, with the pace of play and all the confusion and chaos and his own technical preferences, he just isn't as effective in postseason. In other words, it's not an accidental thing. It's not a random thing. It's because of his style of goaltending and the fast and furious nature of postseason competition. McKenna said, and I quote, "When your hands are back, like Binnington keeps his hands back, it makes it easier to react. And when you have the best teams in the playoffs," McKenna said again, and I quote, "a top flight goaltender in critical situation has to be really active. And I'm not sure Connor has that in him." So take it from one who played the position in the NHL and pro hockey for a long time. So if I could paraphrase, Hellebuyck's like a tall statue. He's not real mobile as he needs to be in that high-speed physical pace of postseason competition. McKenna said also because of Hellebuyck's preference to keep his hands high in that forward position, as we've alluded to, it leaves a lot of space open for shooters in the corner of the net and under the crossbar. Why? Because his hands are out here. They're not back there. They're out here. Look at all that space. I'm being a fool. You probably don't even understand what I'm trying to do here. But look at all the space when you have your hands out, right? Look at all the space over your shoulders. I mean, and the Blues are exploiting that. And we'll get to that in a minute. We've seen the Blues, he said, because you keep that, your hands high, forward position, a lot of open space for shooters in the corners of the net under the crossbar. So we've seen the Blues exploit that. And because Hellebuyck tends to be so flat-footed and anchored in position, by intention, anchored in position, it leaves him especially vulnerable for against those shots coming from the side and at an angle. And he's vulnerable when guys like the Blues' Robert Thomas feeds puck to the backdoor side where Hellebuyck can't react in time. We've seen the Blues take advantage of that as well. Hellebuyck is also no match, and McKenna made this clear too. Hellebuck's no match for Binnington at moving the puck. Binnington does a great job of making that first pass out of the zone to get the Blues on their way at the other end. And Hellebuck's not real good at that. He's okay, McKenna said, but he also pointed out, and we saw one earlier this series, Hellebuyck makes mistakes handling the puck. The Blues scored a goal because of it. And because his line of vision is such a big part of reading plays, which is what Hellebuyck wants to do. He wants to read those plays. He needs to have clear vision to do it. So you get those screens in front of the net and you disrupt his line of vision. It makes him very uncomfortable. The Blues focused on that in games 3 and 4, and they had immense success doing just that. McKenna said, quote, "The Blues have feasted on his weaknesses," and that's accurate. And I've got some numbers to back that up. Screens were a huge problem for Hellebuyck last postseason. He gave up, when they lost to Colorado in 5 games in the first round, he gave up 10 goals on 38 screen shots. That's a .737 save percentage. And Winnipeg was gone after 5 games. Hellebuyck so far has given up 3 goals to the Blues on 16 screen shots. That's an .813 save percentage. It ranks 15th out of the 16 goaltenders this postseason have played at least 13 games. Excuse me. He ranks 15th out of 16 goaltenders who have played at least 3 games in this postseason. Sorry, I spoke the wrong thing there. So his save percentage on screen shots is next to last among the goaltenders this postseason so far. So here's what I did. I put together the first 4 games of this series, and I went back to the Colorado series in the first round last year. So put the 2 series together. On screen shots, Hellebuyck has a .759 save percentage on screens. But if you look at sort of the more normal, calmer style of play in the regular season, this season, regular season, Hellebuyck had a 93% save percentage on screen shots. It was a lot easier then. Now that's all coaches and players are trying to do. They're trying to get like almost literally in the opposing goaltender's face, right? And that's not good for Hellebuyck. All right, there's more to this, and I am getting close to the end, so hang in there with me, but I got some good stuff still. The Blues have scored 4 times this series on stick deflections or pucks that carom off defender. I think it might have even been 5, but we'll keep it at 4. And remember the stuff about Hellebuck's hand positioning. Yeah, I've only talked about it about 20 times so far, but again, I bring it up for a reason because it matters. It matters a lot, and we've seen it. 9 of the Blues' 15 goals in this series. 9 of the 15 goals this series. 60% of the goals they've scored have beaten Hellebuyck high on his glove side. 9 of the 15, they have picked it, put it in the goal high on his glove side. Now, that isn't just kind of like, oh, we're going to fling the puck at the net, we'll see what happens. No, this is a very pointed targeting effort by the Blues. This is relying on video study. It's relying on scouting reports. They know exactly where to go. And it is a fact, not an opinion. He has been extremely weak on those kind of shots in that direction. High glove side, man. So here's the thing that I think should reassure Blues fans. Just my opinion. It reassured me because you think, well, clearly Hellebuck's learned the lesson by now, right? Not so fast on that. When he spoke to the media yesterday, that would be Tuesday, he seemed almost defiant when he was asked about some of the stuff the Blues are doing to exploit him. Now, I want to be fair to Hellebuyck because he did say unequivocally he's got to play better and he is giving up too many goals and he knows it. But, my friends, Hellebuyck also said this, and I'm going to read the quote directly. And he's talking about the regular season. He's talking about the games he won in the regular season. And he said, quote, "You don't win 47 games and then come to the playoffs and switch everything up. I know how it needs to look. I like a lot of things. I'm not going to go and make huge changes." So he's basically saying, I do it my way, and that's my way, and I'm going to stay with my way. I know how it needs to look. You do? How do you know the way it needs to look? You didn't stop many shots the last 2 games, and they're picking at the same spot, and they're putting people in front of you, and you're uncomfortable and you're unsteady, and you got pulled two games in a row. But he's saying you don't come in and switch things. I know how it needs to look. I like a lot of things. In other words, style of play. I'm not going to go make huge changes. Connor Hellebuyck, I know you don't hear me, but I just hope he absolutely stays with that defiant, stubborn attitude, right? Because that would work in the Blues' favor. Or maybe he's setting them up. Maybe it's going to be a bait and switch. Maybe he will come out and have different hand position. He'll be set up in a different way, more forward rather than like sort of tucking into the net. Knowing all this stuff and listening to Mike McKenna, it makes me even more anxious and enthusiastic about watching this game tonight. So the Blues got to do what they did here in St. Louis. They did a little bit, but not enough up in Winnipeg the first 2 games. The Blues got to interfere with his line of vision. They got to keep loading up the crease and slot with bodies. They got to continue to pick those corners and beat him with high shots. They got to take advantage when he's being a statue and he's locked into one place, and, work those backdoor plays with Robert Thomas and, catch him off guard. Don't give him time to react to that. The Blues made it way too easy for big guy Hellebuyck in the first 2 games. But tonight in game 5, I should say, the Blues have to give him the St. Louis treatment. And they have to give him the St. Louis Blues, as in making him blue. Take the same aggressive, relentless approach that led to those 2 blowout wins at Enterprise Center. Follow the scouting reports, fellas. Follow your hearts. Plug in your energy, and just follow the path right in front of his net. And you might get another nice win tonight in Winnipeg. what can I say? Let's go Blues. Thanks for watching. Thanks to DraftKings and BlueChew for supporting The Bernie Show. I cannot wait for the start of Game 5. Take care. Good luck, Blues. We'll be back tomorrow here on The Bernie Show.